Rothfus for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank you for calling today's hearing on the State Insurance Regulation Preservation Act, H.R. 5059. I also want to thank my colleague, Representative Joyce Beatty, for her hard work on this important issue. This is common sense, what I call right regulation. It's a right regulation bill that tailors the supervision of insurance-focused savings and loan holding companies. As many of you know, Dodd-Frank brought savings and loan holding companies under the Federal Reserve's supervision for the first time, despite the fact that Dodd-Frank also reaffirmed the state-based model of insurance regulation, a principle that many of us support. The law had the effect of also bringing insurance savings and loan holding companies under the Fed's purview. These are companies that are overwhelmingly engaged in the business of insurance, but also happen to own thrift subsidiaries. These insurance companies are simultaneously regulated by the Fed and the states. The lack of clarity regarding how Fed supervision of these insurers should complement, rather than supplant, state regulation has led to regulatory inefficiency, duplication of effort, and higher compliance costs. All of this cost and complexity eventually impacts consumers through higher prices and reduced access to services. We recently heard testimony from Rick Means, the president and CEO of Shelter Insurance Company. In Mr. Means' testimony, he described how Shelter was ultimately driven to close its small bank, since Fed supervisory requirements added more than $1 million to their compliance burden. We will hear a similar account today from Mr. Bach. Means wrote that, quote, expensive new federal supervision did nothing to protect consumers and instead worked to reduce competition and deprive consumers of banking options. Our bill addresses this issue by ensuring that insurance, savings, and loan holding companies that meet state and federal capital standards are supervised on a day-to-day basis by their state regulators. The Fed will serve as a backstop regulator, and it will be empowered to step in and take a more hands-on role if one of these companies does not satisfy its capital standards. Meanwhile, the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency will retain its authority over thrift subsidiaries. Again, this is a common sense, targeted, right regulation that will provide greater regulatory clarity and efficiency and reduce unnecessary compliance burden. Thanks, Chairman. I yield back.
The gentleman yields back.